everybody, it's Rick Baker with Responder Support Services. And you're all familiar with the video series that I've done on managing yourself through prolonged incidents. And y'all know we're in another prolonged incident. And instead of listening to me do all the talking, I brought in a guest with me today. And I want to introduce Dr. Keith Cox. And Dr. Keith is a professor at UNCA. He's also a researcher and presenter on PTSD and its treatment. He's been a research scientist with the VA system. I think most importantly, Keith is a part-time clinician at RSS, and he has lots of experience treating first responders and military veterans. A lot of people don't know, Dr. Cox and I co-wrote a chapter in an academic book on first responder mental health, and it's titled First Responder Mental Health, A Clinician's Guide, and you can find it on Springer Publishing. And I wanted to sit down and get Keith's perspective on the impact of Hurricane Helene on our first responders and some things to keep in mind as our first responders move forward, and just get maybe some questions answered that might be rolling around in our first responders' minds. So, Dr. Cox, thank you for being with me today.
Glad to be here. Glad to be here.
So we're several weeks into this thing, and what should or what can those who've been kind of on the ground or out in the field working the majority of this incident, what might they expect in the coming weeks?
So I think first off is what I'm seeing with first responders is just a sense of exhaustion right now, that there's been some time off for many folks, but that doesn't mean they've recovered. That doesn't mean that they're back at baseline. A lot of folks are running on empty right now. And so that's just generally where we're starting right now and where people are going to be for the coming weeks as they try to make sense of everything we've been through.
We think about how this event might impact us as individuals, especially at that first responder level. What might be some of the common reactions or common symptoms that responders might see that indicate this may have had an impact on them?
Yeah, so there's been an incredible amount of stress that first responders have been having to negotiate and deal with. Many folks have gone through a high trauma exposure load, and there's going to be a host of impacts on brains and bodies for that. And so the folks have been operating this high alert mode that we're designed to be able to do that for a short period of time. But because of the disaster, we've had to stay in that mode as first responders, especially have had to stay in that mode, and their effects. There's a toll that's going to take. So can disrupt sleep for some folks. There might have been a particularly bad call that keeps popping up for somebody. Maybe it's coming up in bad dreams. That you might notice it like, the anger piece, I go 0 to 60, and that's not usual for me. There might be some impulse control problems. Like maybe you find yourself like going for those, whatever your go-to snack is or candy or something like, wow, I just had like that whole bag. So that's all part of that piece that the reservoirs are low right now. And so that's normal. That's standard. You're not going crazy. You're not losing it. You don't have PTSD for the rest of your life. If you're noticing that, that's how the brain and the body responds to this kind of prolonged stress.
So if we start thinking down the road, weeks down the road for our first responders, what might the psychological impacts of Helene be on them?
I think one thing to keep in mind is that there's lots of different paths that people are on. There's lots of different experiences that people have had. And so there's not one common thing that everybody's going to be going through. There's going to be lots of different stressors that people are dealing with. And so not to just assume that everybody's in the same place, but to make space for there being different ways that people are dealing with this.
So not everybody's going to respond to this in the same way. It's not going to be a universal response that we see from this responder to this respondent.
Yeah, that's what the research really shows, is there's kind of 3 big categories of response. We got lots of different responses. We can kind of put those in 3 categories. And so what we want to be aware of is it's not that either like everybody's having this like strong, resilient response, or everybody's having this I'm broken forever response. And so We want to check in with ourselves and with others to have a sense of, where people are. So I can tell you about these 3 common responses. So the first one is sometimes a little bit surprising to people to hear about. It's something called post-traumatic growth. So when we go through these kinds of intense stressors, research shows that a lot of people actually, they learn something new about themselves or about the world. They have a greater sense of their own strength, their own capacity. And so that they've grown, they've become larger, they've gotten a sense of they're stronger out of this.
So this event could promote growth in some people.
Yeah. So there's going to be some people that are actually going to have something that we would think of as that they're healthier, they're stronger, they've grown in some way. So we don't want to assume that everybody is struggling. This has been it's stressful, it's been hard, but there might be some growth here for some people.
So what's another possible outcome for a different group of people?
So all of us are in that place, and especially first responders in that place of being exhausted right now. And there might be that disrupted sleep, there might be that irritability, but that a second group of folks are going to, though, over the coming weeks, return to baseline. So it might be that they're having bad dreams right now about something that happened, or just about just being stressed and overwhelmed. And in the coming weeks, those are going to kind of slowly die away, and they're going to get back to who they were 2 months ago, 6 months ago. And that's what we call natural recovery. There's this amazing thing that we as humans can do is we can go through these kinds of prolonged stressors and we can get back to who we were. We're not exactly the same, right? We've learned, we've got new experiences, but we can recover. And that's a capacity, a strength, a resilience that we all have.
So individuals in this group are impacted by the event, and then over time, they recover to their pre-level of functioning.
Yeah.
What about a third group?
So a third group is the folks that for some reason they get stuck in that high alert state. Their brains, their bodies are trying to make sense of what's happened. And so it might be that those distressing dreams stick around. It might be that they have intrusive thoughts about something that happened. It might be that anger issue is still popping off. That's the group that that natural recovery has gotten stuck in some way. It's gotten gummed up in some way. And those are the folks that I think are most, we want to think about okay, what can we do to help support these folks as we want everybody to get back to that place of as much recovery as possible.
Someone's watching this and they feel they're in that third group. What can they do?
So this is exactly what Responder Support Services is here for. It's why we exist, is for this kind of moment to be able to offer services. So here's the really good news is that we have solutions that we didn't have 20, 30, 40 years ago for being stuck in this place of I haven't made it back to who I was before Helene. And it's the story is it's short-term therapy. So 6, 8, 10 sessions that focus in on those challenging points that people are stuck in around their experiences with Helene, that we can help people get back to where they were and learn and grow through this experience. And essentially what the therapy helps do is it kind of kickstarts the engine of that natural recovery. So something's getting in the way, and coming in and talking to somebody about it can help figure out how to get that unstuck.
You touched on something that I think is important to point out. For someone who's feeling they're impacted heavily by this event and they want to come in and get some help, they're not looking at it forever thing, are they?
So it's not forever therapy. It's not like sign up for every Tuesday at 2 p.m. for the next 87 weeks. It's come in, let's focus in on what's the specific problem, and let's work on solutions to get healing, recovery, strength back.
So if we have a first responder who is in any one of these groups that's watching this video, what might be something that they can do right now?
So I think that piece of stepping back and taking stock, if you're exhausted, hey, that makes total sense. It's gonna take some time to recover from this. If in the coming weeks you have a sense of, where am I? On the one hand, if you're feeling like there's something you've learned and grown in this experience, you don't need to feel guilty for that. So I've definitely heard that here, and I've heard that with a lot of other traumatic events and prolonged stressors like this, where those that are able to grow in this, they feel guilty about the fact that they're not hurting. So they don't need to feel guilty. I think the piece for that middle group that are on the route of natural recovery, it's okay that you might be having a nightmare. It's okay that you might be a little more irritable. And so just having a sense of understanding that that's what's going on. And if you have a sense that maybe you're on that route that you're getting stuck in this, hey, we're here. Come in now. You can come in now. You can come in 3 weeks. You can come in 2 months. A cool thing about RSS being available now, though, is that you do have the opportunity to deal with it now and not 6 months from now, not 2 years from now, when maybe something like PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, has taken root and really disrupted someone's life. So the acting sooner can help uproot or avoid any problems that might be growing for the future.
So early intervention is certainly advised here.
So it can be super helpful to prevent, the impact on relationships, the impact on your body, the impact on your brain, the impact on your sleep, the impact on your functioning at work. So what we want is our first responders we don't want a wave of burnout. We don't want a wave of there being reductions in performance 6 months from now, 2 years from now, because PTSD has taken hold in that group of folks that are struggling with Helene.
Dr. Cox, I want to thank you for coming in and taking your time to answer these questions and help our first responders. If anybody wants to come in and take advantage of early intervention now or down the road, you can reach us. Our main number is 828-333-5708. You can find us online at respondersupport.com or reach out to us through one of our social media platforms. Thank you for watching, and please share this video.